Chapter 1. What is the Transcendental Argument for God? The Transcendental Argument for God is a philosophical argument that doesn't begin with the universe, nature, or miracles. Instead, it begins with what we're doing right now, using logic, reason, and language. It asks, what must be true in order for anything to make sense at all? In simpler terms, it argues that things like the laws of logic, objective morality, mathematics, rationality, uniformity of nature, can only exist if there is a transcendent source that makes them possible. This is where the term transcendental comes from. We're not looking at what's inside the system, we're asking what makes the system possible. Think of it like playing a video game. Inside the game, you can run, jump, and battle monsters, but none of that works unless there's a codebase behind it, something outside the game itself that makes everything function. In our world, that codebase is God. Tag essentially says, if you want to argue against God, you have to use tools like logic, reason, and truth that only make sense if God exists. So if you deny God but still rely on logic, you're contradicting yourself. You're standing on God's ground to deny Him. Small Diamond Chapter 2. Tag versus other arguments for God. You've probably heard of other arguments for God. The cosmological argument. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The teleological argument. The universe shows design, therefore, there must be a designer. The moral argument. Objective morals require a moral lawgiver. These are all strong and worth using. But they have a potential weakness. They can be challenged based on external evidence, scientific theories, debates about design, different views of morality, and so on. But the transcendental argument is different. You can't even begin to argue against it without using it. Why? Because to argue against it, you must assume logic, truth, and the ability to reason, which is what the argument is defending. In that way, it's more foundational than any other argument. It's like trying to argue against air while breathing. Small Diamond Chapter 3. How tag works, step by step. Let's break it down step by step. Step 1. There are things we all assume. Whether atheist or Christian, we all assume logic is valid, e.g. A cannot be non-A at the same time. Math works. 2 plus 2 always equals 4. Truth exists and can be known. Nature is uniform. The future will resemble the past. Some actions are objectively right or wrong. Step 2. These things need a foundation. None of those things are material. You can't weigh logic. You can't touch truth. You can't find 2 under a microscope. They are immaterial, universal, and unchanging. So where do they come from? How can they exist in a purely material universe? If atheism is true, and the universe is just atoms bouncing around, these laws shouldn't exist, or at best, they should be relative and changing. But they don't. They're consistent, immaterial, and reliable. Step 3. The best explanation is a transcendent mind. These immaterial realities behave like thoughts, not like physical objects. And thoughts come from minds. So Tag argues that behind the universe, behind reason itself, there must be a universal, unchanging, eternal mind. In other words, God. Small Diamond Chapter 4. Tag and logic. Let's zoom in on one example. Logic. The most basic law of logic is the law of non-contradiction. A thing cannot be both A and not A at the same time and in the same way. This is not just a rule humans made up. It's a rule we discovered. It applies everywhere, at all times. Now ask, where does this law come from? If you say, it just is, that's not an answer. That's a philosophical free pass. If you say, humans invented it, then it's no longer universal, it's just opinion. But then, nobody's wrong, ever. But if logic is real, and not just made up, then it must be grounded in something outside of us. Something eternal, something unchanging. Logic is a reflection of God's mind. It works because we live in a world made by a rational creator. Even atheists who argue against God must assume logic is valid in order to make their case. But in doing so, they've already borrowed from the theist worldview. This is why Tag is so powerful, you can't escape it. The more you argue, the more you prove it. Small Diamond Chapter 5. Tag in morality. What about morality? We all make moral judgments. That was wrong. That's unfair. But can we do that if there's no God? If atheism is true, then we are just evolved animals. And while animals may act with instincts, there's no such thing as moral truth. But we act as if there is. We say that murder, rape, slavery are wrong, always. Not just unpopular, not just unhelpful to society. Wrong. This only makes sense if there's a moral law, and that law must come from a moral lawgiver. If morality is objective, it must be rooted in something outside of humanity. That's God. Without him, all morality becomes subjective, just opinions shaped by culture and evolution. But the moment you say, that's not just wrong, it's evil, you've invoked a standard bigger than yourself. A divine standard. Small Diamond Chapter 6. The Logos Connection. Now we connect all of this to Christian theology, specifically the theology of Logos. In the Gospel of John, we read, "In the beginning was the Word, Logos, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." John chapter 1 verse 1. The Greek word logos means word, but it also means reason, order, logic, principle of knowledge. John is saying, the rational order behind the universe is not an idea, it's a person. That person is Jesus Christ. Jesus is not just a man. He is the mind behind the universe. The rational principle made flesh. This is why Christians can confidently say that logic, truth, and morality are real, because they flow from the nature of Christ himself. The Logos is not just an argument, it is a person. He created us, and he invites us into a relationship with the very source of all reason and being. Small Diamond Chapter 7. Responding to objections. Let's tackle some common objections. Objection 1. I can use logic without believing in God. True, but the point isn't whether you can use logic. The point is whether you can justify it. Tag says you're using something that only makes sense in a theistic worldview. It's like using someone else's tools without paying rent. Objection 2. Logic just exists. It doesn't need God. That's not an explanation, it's an assertion. To say logic, just is the same as saying God, just is. But God, at least, explains the immaterial, unchanging, universal nature of logic. A random universe of atoms does not. Objection 3. Morality evolved for survival. Evolution might explain behavior, but it can't explain moral obligation. Why should we care about justice or equality if it doesn't benefit us? Yet we do. We risk our lives to protect others. We say genocide is wrong, even if it's popular. That only makes sense if morality is objective, and that means it comes from something bigger than evolution. Small Diamond Chapter 8. Tag in evangelism. Tag isn't just for arguments. It's for evangelism. It's a gentle but powerful way to help people see that they are already living as if God exists. When they use logic, when they appeal to justice, when they say something is true, they are showing that deep down, they know there is order, truth, and goodness. And that opens the door to the gospel. You don't have to win a debate. Just ask the right questions. Why do you believe logic is real? Where does morality come from? If there's no God, can anything be truly right or wrong? Let the Spirit do the rest. Small Diamond Conclusion. So, can you prove God to an atheist? Maybe not with a microscope. Maybe not with a flash of light from the sky. But what if the strongest proof is already in their heart and mind? The Transcendental Argument shows that logic, truth, and morality only make sense if God exists. And that's not just any God. That's the God revealed in Jesus Christ, the Logos made flesh. If you've never thought about God this way, maybe it's time. And if you already believe, this argument is a powerful reminder. Faith is not irrational. It is the foundation of all reason. Thanks for watching. If this video challenged you, share it, like, comment below. Tell us what you think. Can logic prove God? Until next time, keep seeking truth. Because the truth is seeking you.